Everyone. How are you on this Thursday? Good day to you. Hey, thought I'd just do a show here because, well, I was thinking about a question that probably is relevant to all of us. So, oh, well, there's 28 of us. How you doing? By the way, I did get a chance to see some of the messages, and we're going to get Mad Hatter on here, folks. I think you're going to be really surprised. I think I'm trying to get him on a Friday night, so it'll be about another week ahead. So anyway, Mad Hatter, there's your answer for you. Gary Baxter, how you doing, my friend? Thank you to all of the moderators. You guys are the best. Hey, Don, how you doing? Flight risk. No, that's a great tag name. That's cool. Sherry, good to see you. Michael, Kenneth, Cheesesteak, good to see you. Jeremy, greetings. How are everyone? 55. That seems to be a number. So, the soul. Do we have one? Really, do we have a soul? It's a question hey, Brian, how you doing? Strawberry, good to see you. Knowledge Seeker, hello. Mary, good to see you. Chloe, good to see you as well. Merritt, hello, everyone. So I ponder that. In my walk, and the great thing about it is, this has been just like I said, just one really groovy ride. I love that word. I can still remember laughing and how much that impacted the social consciousness of not only America, but Britain and then beyond the world. So, Adam, good to see you. Travis, good to see you as well. So, when I was a Christian, and I have to say past tense because I no longer consider myself as such. Kind of just really get to the bottom line of that one is all through my Christian walk, I always could not adapt to this idea that I'm studying an ancient culture that I have no connection to, absolutely have no basis of understanding other than seeing them as a bunch of white people. And I'll just be candid with you. That's how, people see Jesus, as a white dude. And that's how we saw Adam being born. He was white, So I could never relate. That was the hardest thing, even, in my Bible studies and studying under, many, many of the modern day Bible teachers. And I could just never get it. What do I have anything in common with this ancient tribe? And I didn't even know they were tribes back then. We all really thought Cecil B. DeMille had the vision from God himself when he made Charleston Heston, Moses. That was Moses. Charleston Heston was the, image and epiphany of this mythical biblical character. So I could never quite understand, well, what does that have to do with me? And today I can tell you, I'm not Hebrew. I'm not Jewish. Got no desire to be. And thus, why would I have any desire to serve or worship their God? Quite frankly, in my Bible studies, I found that this God said that the Hebrews were his chosen people. It didn't have my people in there. So that kind of began to set a course of a journey. And this is what my channel really is about. It's about this documentation that when I pass on, will no doubt be seen by who knows, Unless there's an intimate disaster of the world, I have a sense that things will continue as they have for the last 6,500 years, barring, again, some great cataclysm. So, back in the 70s, in my early searching, and I was, if I had a group of my peers, and when I say my peers, would be the same date that I would have graduated high school. I never did graduate high school, never had the opportunity. But those would be my peers. Well, at the age of 15, I'm already pondering the questions: what is death? What is spirit? And I learned from a lot of different points of view. When I lived at Family Connection, all those of you in the Houston area that are listening, and I know there's many of you that are, right there on the corner of Commonwealth and Indiana, in one of my LSD trips, and I distinctly remember it, and apparently so does a few other people, particularly at the time where I was preaching. There was a greenhouse attached to this house. It was a large Victorian 3-story house, and there was a greenhouse, and I had been working in there. Great therapy, by the way. So when you take LSD, your mind, you really have an opportunity to see what I call the true reflection of one's spirit. Soul? I don't know. But they said I delivered quite the sermon for nearly 3 hours. I think I got all those plants saved. I don't know. So anyway, when I began to see the Native Americans in the different tribes of their societies of understanding what is spirit. So when I got into Christianity, it became very confusing for me when they started talking about the soul. I mean, quite frankly, the soul was not a concept for me at a very early age. It was like, okay, so I have a soul, so explain this soul to me. And for nearly 40 years, 4 decades, I was in that mind coitus, that God spell. By the way, someone had asked me one time, and I know the book is hard, but if you want to read a good book by Neil Freer, I really highly recommend this. It really is called Breaking the God Spell. And you really should read this. It'll give you an understanding of some things that I keep trying to tell people, but the spell is strong. It's strong magic. Christianity is a strong Hellenistic religion, and they use a lot of different incantations, rituals. I mean, we all know what's going on there. So for the next 40 plus years, here I am searching. Now, I still have it because it has a lot of fond memories. This Bible here, the Amplified Bible, one of the first editions, by the way. It's completely, the backing is now, starting to literally disintegrate. But that book right there, the reason why I save it, because it's got, well, folks, when you've got nearly, in this case, 35 years of notes, it's a reflection of who I am and my growth. And what I didn't really understand, and listen, I don't discount there is a benefit that I learned, because regardless of what your spiritual path is, your journey, whatever you're sojourning in this life, whatever path you choose is cool. I respect all people's beliefs. Just because I have come to the point in my life through the confusion that was induced by the very faith that I had adapted. And, it's strong. It's hard to shake it. We're going to talk more about this Wednesday night with Jennifer and her daughter, Sandra. It's going to be one you're not going to want to miss. We're going to really get into what I call cow tipping. You'll see on Saturday night. So, as the awakening began to occur within me, I look back, and this is what I've come to understand, is that this has been an ever looping alarm that has been playing into my spirit and my mind. And we're going to talk more about the mind as to the soul as well. This alarm clock, there were apexes, crossroads in my life, ladies and gentlemen, where whatever it was, whatever it is of this path, that with my great love and respect for mathematics, I think it is, and truly it's the thought of the gods, mathematics. I really do. And if I looked at just the coincidences of these paths, well, no, there's something else going on here. Time after time, there were people in my life path that crossed my path that were trying to wake me up. I really do believe that this was part of my eternal family. I think I'm becoming more and more connected to this thought that we're tribes. We all are. And if to use the Kabbalah thought process, as it is above, so it is below. So if there are tribes here in which we're tribes by our blood types, it just goes. It kind of tells me that I think that there is a eternal family or pod or tribe or group that we belong to when we're off in these extenuated journeys. I'm also becoming convinced that we volunteer for this. I know it sounds weird, but it doesn't make sense otherwise. You can't learn enough in a lifetime. Each of us in this chat room, there's 150 plus of us in here right now. Each and every one of us, ladies and gentlemen, you have a defined set of days already that has been determined. Now, my goal is to live 30,000 days, but even if I was to be able to live 300,000 days in this temporal plane and in this body, it wouldn't be enough. But I also now am beginning to understand that there comes a point in all of our journeys where we have to leave. We have to leave to recharge. I think the thing is that, and I don't know this is just my perspective. By the way, join me tonight over on the Artists First Network for the Steiger Perspective, bringing Sovereign Key back. Laura's going to be on for an hour. We're going to have a lot of fun with this, but to the point that, well, this existence, this plane, this dimension, it sucks the life out of you. To quote Rocket on, Guardians of the Galaxy, it sucks the joy right out of the room. And when we enter into this death plane, we know it's a death plane. It has This is what we have to overcome, is that we frame everything by this death plane experience. Why? Because we have a beginning, and we certainly know there's going to be an end in this plane of existence. And thus it so dominates the mind, the soul, because I don't think the soul, if there is one, carries on. I think the spirit does. I don't think the soul does. Maybe the mind, maybe. I've often said that the mind is nothing more than the expression of the spirit incarnate. So you come into this limited ride. You buy the ticket, you volunteer you come in, and so count it by days. Don't count it by years, count it by days. So you come in, you know your ticket has got a number on it. Now, you run the gauntlet from there. And, maybe it's a repetitive situation. I don't know. But when we begin to define that which eludes us, I mean, religion, philosophies, science, the only thing science will do is that they will acknowledge there's something that happens at birth. I believe it's about 27, 29 grams that everybody experiences. So we know there is something tangible here, folks. It's tangible. It's not this, it's not that, but it's tangible within. It has weight. So therefore, as Dr. Albers would say, if it has weight, it has mass. So with that being said, then what really is it? I mean, philosophers, I think we have one of the best perspectives. And the reason why I say philosophers, because I think in order to be, in that class of philosophers, is that I think you have to experience what you actually can talk about. I mean, I couldn't tell you what it means to be a Buddhist. I wouldn't have any basis of understanding. Wouldn't have any for many of the religions. And the same thing would hold true when I study ancient cultures. Although I'm aware enough to understand now that we, as a species, we're stuck. We don't advance. Our culture has advanced zero in 6,500 years. Zero. So what's going on here? Now, boy, there's 164 of us in here. Well, welcome everyone. So I pulled something up, right? So give me 1 second here. I think this is the right one. Yes. So allow me, because I think we have to get some understanding of what is the soul if it exists. I believe the technology is coming one day where we'll actually be able to do this in, I think, a classroom kind of amphitheater setting. So kind of after looking at hundreds of pictures and renditions of the soul, I think this one struck me psychically as the one that, it resonates. All right, so let's talk about this, right? Give me 1 second here. I need to, there we go. Thank you, folks. Give me 1 second. There we are. All right, the existence of the soul, let's define it, is heavily debated in the first place. And its definitions vary greatly from party to party, belief system, culture, etc. Though everyone believes that everyone else's definition is wrong, it is generally agreed to something possessed possessed by every person. So it's kind of like this thing. It's on the unwritten rule, right? We can look at each other and going, all right, he's got a soul. Of course, we've met people that we say are soulless. Who knows? All right. So this is my problem with religion as well. How can you have one religion that's right and all the rest of them be wrong? It's ludicrous. Come on, folks. All right. Therefore, the soul may or may not be any of the following. All right, class, we're all on this. Everyone lock hands. All right, come on. The human mind, that is, that thinking thing lodged between your ears. And this says your eyes, but I meant to say your ears. The essence of humanity. Quite frankly, I don't know what the freak that really means. The essence of humanity. Is that a smell? Is that an elixir? I don't know what that means. The essence of that which makes a person good and decent. Okay. Here's how my mind works immediately. So what's the antithesis of that? The essence of that which makes a person bad and evil? Folks, come on. The quality of sentience or human intelligent. The quality. I've met some animals that are smarter than a lot of people I've ran across in my lifetime. So I don't know. All of someone's personality or what makes them unique. Well, I think we're all unique. I've been called that. I've been called a lot of other things too. All right. Some mystical version of a person that lives on after the body dies. Some mystical version of a person. Well, that's just about as clear as mud. All right. A spiritual concept created by God, or the gods if you prefer, or a part of him. Did you get that? The quality of being alive. Well, then, if that's what my soul is, that means when I am no longer being alive, that would be in the state of being dead. By that, my soul isn't going to go very far. All right. Anything else that you can think of along these lines? Now, this is the epitome of, hey, buddy, I don't care what you believe, man. I just love you. Come on in. Come on. Bring your beliefs in here as well. Now, it's up to debate whether or not non-human animals, or for that matter, plants have souls. Feel free to adjust the answer accordingly. So that's kind of weird, isn't it? All right. Now, I got these directly from many different dictionaries. Definition of the soul. The immaterial essence, animating principle, or actuating cause of an individual life. The spiritual principle embodied in human beings, all rational and spiritual beings, or the universe. Do you see how we as a species, we get really, we use words. You know, someone laughed the other time when I don't know, he said, you just cussed the person out and you never even said one bad word. And I said, well, you don't have to. The spiritual principle embodied in human beings. Well, number one, that implies then you have to be human. Okay? All rational and spiritual beings. Now, yes, I nitpick at words because words are important. We are so cavalier in our speech that we don't even know when we talk English that they're even talking English. All right, all rational. Well, right there, you see that word is, well, it's subject to whatever the person who's writing that words interpretation of the definition of rational is. I have seen what Congress says are rational actions, and I just look at them and say they're all back crap crazy. I guess I would be the irrational, unrational, derational, re-rational, anti-rational being, and spiritual being. So are we saying that there can be two different type of beings here? There can be one, a rational being, and there can be a spiritual being, or the universe. Capitalize Christian Science and their God, a person's total self, an active or essential part, a moving spirit, a leader, the moral and emotional nature of human beings, the quality that arouses emotion and sentiment, spiritual or moral force, fever. A person's not a soul in sight. That's spiritual or moral force. Wow. All right. I think this is from Webster's. The principle of life, feeling, thought, and action in humans regarded as a distinct entity separate from the body and commonly held to be separable in existence from the body. The spiritual part of humans as distinct from the physical part. Now, this is one I think has really gotten it right. But here I'm wondering, are they intermersing two concepts into two separate words, meaning the same thing? Spirit, soul, being synonymous with one another. Okay. But they are obviously two distinct entities, I would say. Two, the spiritual part of humans regarded in its moral aspect or as believed to survive death and be subject to happiness or misery in a life to come. Now, arguing the immorality of the soul. We're going to talk about reincarnation, but it is very clear that I never saw this as a practicing Christian, but the Bible very clearly states that there is reincarnation. And anyone want to doubt me on that? Then I'm going to shut you down real quick here. If it's not called reincarnation, then buddy, madam, when you die, it's over. You don't exist. Because the word itself means to reincarnate. Reincarnation. The reincarnate of Christ. You see how this goes? You see, you never realize that Christianity is a Hellenistic religion. This proves it right there. All right, 3, the disembodied spirit of a deceased person. So you can see how religion has latched on to this one. This is what they use for millennia, the fear factor. Well, if you don't believe the way we do, you're going to hell. Hell does not exist. The only place hell exists is in the individual's imagination. And you best not have that thought ringing around your imagination when your ticket is called. Because it's going to get pretty freaky on the other side for you there for a little bit. Or so I have heard. Let's go on. Soul, noun, the entity which is regarded as being the immortal. Ooh, I like this one now. The immortal or spiritual part of a person, and which, though having no physical or material reality, is credited with the functions of thinking and willing, and hence determining all behavior. I love this definition because here it's stating both the ether and the now exist. And what I always find interesting, folks, in the research, and we're going to get into me even more in this, trust me, this is only the beginning. The fact that the word immortal is associated with spirit. You see where I'm going with this? So to be immortal is to be, and it's amazing because, like I said, I'm appreciative of all those Bible studies and, the classes I went to, is that the fact that, the immortal, that means that as I interpreted through Christian theology, I would be immune to the second death. Can an immortal die? I did a whole video on it. Can God die? Does God have a lifespan? Again, when we enter into this dimension, this temporal place, this plane that we're on, what I would call the more carnal conscious part of our awareness is that it knows that it's finite. I think that maybe that's part of the soul's problem. That's where it comes in, this whole fear of death. Maybe the soul is the momentary experiencer, sending back to the source, which is you and I. And I love it as well, is credited with the functions of thinking and willing, and hence determining all behavior. Boy, we have a field day on that one. All right. The moral or emotional nature of a human being. Now, through my life, I have often been told by my elders who, oh God, if I could just talk to them, they're gone, but they know now that, well, Wayne, your soul is, your conscious. It's your, what tells you what's right or wrong. And I could challenge that all over. But anyway, well, that's what they're saying is basically, we really don't know, and don't ask us. The spiritual or emotional warmth. Oh, I love that. The force, etc., or evidence of this. And the acronym, what they give the example in here, a cold painting without a soul. The spirit or emotional warmth. Woo, I like that one. 4, vital or essential part, quality, or principle. The brevity is the soul of wit. Okay. Again, you see, I don't know if the spirit is devoid of emotion. I have challenged the fact that all world gods, whatever those religions may be, they all have emotions. That's troubling, because I think that that's part of the challenge that we do to ourselves when we come into this lives, is that, you know that there's an end, right? You can see it out there. Now, the challenge is, can you make it through? I don't know. The person who leads or dominates, the central figure. Now, that's an interesting point right there. The person who leads or dominates. Now, we're talking about the soul. The embodiment, personification, the very soul of kindness. The spirit of a dead person, thought of as separate from the body and leading an existence of its own. Now, I think that one is very poignant. The deep spiritual and emotional quality. Okay, and now they're getting into other terms, which for our case, there could be even said soul music. Why do they call it that? So what this is really saying then is that there's basically this large swimming pool that we all get in, and each of us are experiencing our own separate individual growth and realities. Each of us exist in our own reality from birth to death. We each exist in multiple realities, All of us see from the inside out. I don't see myself unless I'm looking in the mirror doing one of these shows. When I say dog, what dog do you see? Whatever you are, seen only from you. A simple experiment. What time is it for you? Think about it. You see, I look at time in a little different perspective. I don't look at it the fact that I can see a clock that gives me a numeral output. I have a sense of time, but it's only as though it's an impression on my spirit. We are trillions of self-spheres within a greater sphere. Now, this has been proven. It's also now being proven out mathematically. Physics. General time, birth time, death time. All different times. Now, when we say time, who's being aware of it? Is it the soul? Is it my mind? Is it the fear that when death comes, I can't think anymore? I can't speak anymore? I can't see anymore? Homo sapiens do not know what date it is. We really don't. No one knows what the actual date is. This is the weirdest thing. We're a species, we are lost in time because time is ambiguous. Oh, now they'll tell you we can get down to the atomic clock and we can see the atomic decay. But now we know that that can be influenced by high doses of radiation. Gives you different results in your carbon-14 dating. So we don't know what time it is. We have no idea. We don't know how old our species is. We really don't even know how. It's all a guess. No one can actually come up to you and tell you with 100% accuracy what the date is. And all of it is a guess as to the rest of the universe. It's a guess, and it's probably wrong. So what is reality? How is it defined? Who defines it? Is it the soul that defines this reality? Is this the progenitor of something that is really the power source, us? Could we actually be self-aware speaking DNA as defined as the soul? Now, I happen to believe that if the soul exists, it would exist within the DNA. It may be why, as we continue to unlock the human genes, we're finding the information never stops. Why is it that you carry that? Why is it? Your DNA is unique to you. It carries within you, I believe, the before time. So there you go. That's just, give me 1 second here as I get out of this. There I am. I'm back. Wow. So deep, huh? And we still got 20 minutes to go. Now, I really appreciate all of you. I really do, because this tells me that there's a community here, and I know this community is big. There's so many other channels out there that bring the logos, they bring the Rhema to this puzzle. It all aids in our search. Hi, Manifested Muse. How are you doing? Good to see you. So I have a PDF here. This is probably one of the most profound individuals in the modern day that I think has given some of the best thought to this. It's an extensive document. It's by Nikolai I think that's Levashov, Levakshov. Don't get me on this but I just want to read this introduction to you. The soul or spirit, all of us wonder, what is the soul? And how long to believe in its reality? No one appreciates the idea that we vanish irrevocably from the face of the earth once we have passed away. Yet we can find nothing to assuage our hunger for knowledge of such things, not in the anecdotes of those who have returned from clinical death, not in the ruminations of priests or theologians. So what can we expect in the hereafter? Eternal darkness, purgatory, hell, or logos? And what exactly is the soul? Many people have experienced head injuries or clinical death reports, seeing and hearing souls of the deceased and viewing the channels through which they depart. But where do they go? Where are heaven or hell, if they exist? And why can't the rest of us see, hear, or sense any of this? Current medical wisdom tries to explain away real objective phenomena as merely the effects of oxygen deficient in the brains. And even we know now that that's not true. We now know that the brain doesn't need oxygen. As it's dying, as the organ itself is dying, we now know it can last up to 22 minutes. Electrical activity. Do past lives really exist? And if so, why do most of us have no knowledge or recollection of them? What actually is memory? How do we record, store, and access from memory? Something meaningful to us but long forgotten. What is the brain per se? How does it work? How do our brain cells receive and store information from the outside world? How do we perceive and sense the surrounding world? What, in essence, are our feelings and emotions? Are we able to understand the phenomena of love feelings and how they arise in the depths of the soul? Can we attribute them merely to sexual attraction within the mother nature as seen fit to endow us? If it is merely that, how can we explain why a man may feel the stirrings of love only for a specific woman and not just anybody that he may perchance meet on the streets or work? If it's something other than just physical attraction, what is it? And why can love disappear or turn to complete indifference or even mutual hatred at times? As for humanity's personality, how does one develop a particular psychic organization and character? Why does one person have great willpower while another weak individual, the total devoid of it? How do the different types of psychic organization evolve? And why, in a given individual, may the psychic type change in the course of one's lifetime? As you can see, this gets into these questions that so many of us, I think, we get confused on. So, what is the soul? I'm going to have to go back and look at the comments in here because I am sure that they are absolutely fabulous. But so here's what I have read from a medical point. At the moment of death, as the brain begins to shut down, we know that the organs, and how about that, folks? Tuesday, it was announced, and this blows me away, that medical science has discovered a new organ in the human body. Now, how long have they been cutting bodies open? How long have they been doing autopsies? How long have medical students been basically dissecting cadavers? And they're just now finding that this is an organ that apparently goes throughout our whole body, surrounds every other organ, and now seems to be the transportation highway for cancer. How cancer begins to move through the body. Now, folks, it's 2018. We are still discovering things about the human body. Don't tell me that all the knowledge of religion, philosophy, or science has already been discovered. Not buying it. And I think the minute that when you break out of that mindset, breaking that God spell, you begin to understand that what's been happening is that you've been compressed, metastasized into basically what I call a cyst, when you should have never been there to begin with. It's becoming very evident that there is something there. The mind, you see, I have actually, allow me to get my notes. You see, I ask these questions and I don't see people always answering them. How would the spirit know what time is? Do you have a clock with you? You see, I think we step out of this dimension into the place before time, before there was. I think that's what immortality is. It cannot be judged against a ticking clock. Immortality is just that. It's immortal. And by all the evidence, it has to been for me, is what's being recycled. Is it the spirit? Is it the soul? Is it the mind? And at that moment, when this physical body, when you see it on a cellular decay level, when inside of you, your cells begin to explode, sometimes almost instantaneously, does the spirit depart and take the mind with it? You know, in Christian theology, in many different parts of schisms, I think it says, for the saving of your soul. I could never figure that out. So my spirit is born again, but my soul is not. Am I going to stand back and be a soul, less spirit? Am I going to be a spirit, less a soul? I don't know. Lisa Barnett, of which I do believe it exists, the Akashic Record. When you stop and think about what I mentioned to you about your DNA, that your DNA, it's very specific to you. It contains, I think, if you can say essence is energy, that it contains us, me, you, individually. I am a universe. Don't believe me, do you? But you are too. When I see a picture of the universe, I interpret it differently than you do. That means that I am within myself a universe. I am the creator of my universe. I am the creator of my reality. We all are. Now, if that exists, which I do, it's a great song. When I used to really be really stoned on LSD, listening to the Moody Blues, In Search of a Lost Chord. And I love that when it starts out the beginning. I think, therefore I am. I think. If I speak a thought, that thought lives. They say that there is satellites up there now, that we have the technology, they say, that records every voice, every sound that's ever been generated on this planet. can go back millions of years. It doesn't cease. I often wonder, could we get the same thing for that destroyed planet we call the asteroid belt? But getting back to this whole thing about the DNA, that immortality. So how does the mind work? I know from what I have been shown, in which there are greater powers, greater spirits. They're very covetous of the energy that you possess. And that's part of the risk going through this dimension, is that we don't understand that there are creatures, life forms, that are foreign to us. And not all of us come from the same place. I believe we come from the central place of what they call origin of creation. But I have no idea at this point how long I've been out there. I've had a couple of you, Suji, Heidi, a few others that, have seen this. I think Suji was the best one that said, Wayne, there's so many spirits around you. She says, I gotta back away. Why? Why is it that we're seeing so much awareness? I think that there's two things going on here. I think that there is this wave that is hitting us, that people are literally awakening, some in the middle of the night. And while that is happening, there's this huge download taking place. It doesn't stop. It's continuous. And as more people become more intuitive, more in tune, the downloads increase. And I think that's what's happening. And then, is that my spirit that's generating that? I contend that the mind allows me that avatar ability to connect to this realm. Because I go places out of my body. People say, how do you do that? How do you astral project? It's different for, I think, every person. You have to find your place. Now, I was pleased to read that someone wrote me, they said, well, finally, someone understands. They call it, spacing out, day tripping, daydreaming. No, it's a form of meditation. And if you get good at it, really good at it, you did it as a child. I was reprimanded more times. Why? Because the stuff they were teaching, I already knew. But I had the ability as a child, and it was around many of the other children. They would be gone. Their bodies were there. Their minds were gone. Folks, we got to get back to that. We all know instinctively how to leave our bodies. It's just that you forgot. You were reprimanded, punished for something that was very natural, where the teacher should have said, where did you go? In fact, I actually had a few tell me, Steiger, just where do you go? Where were you at? I'm looking at what's going on? Now, come on. We all know that. We experience, and if you have children, you know it yourselves. We got to encourage that. We got to get that back. Before you leave this plane, you need to learn to get out of that body. I'm telling you what, you can get a lot of healing when that is done as well. We're going to explore more and more about remote healing. It's real. It happens. There are spirits around us. Why? I am becoming convinced that I've got a family. I don't know who they are. But I think I've done this a number of times, and I do it almost to show myself that I can still do it. I also know that when my time goes is that it takes a time. You have to recharge. Now, some believe that some people go cycle right back in. Maybe they do. I don't think so for myself. I mean, I've been there. But that's how you astro project. And some people have said to me as well that said, well, I always thought that it goes out from here. No, for me, it's actually where you enter in when you came into this body. That's your belly button, your groin area, the solar plex area. Think about it. Well, has this been a fun hour? And we didn't even get into the good stuff. So we'll have to do this again. Well, because it's a subject that I just don't think that is easily. And if anyone wants to come on, just send me an email and we'll get you on here. We can get a panel on here. I mean, this is a discussion. I'm sitting around in my office with stacks of books. I mean, I've spent a fortune on them. And all that reading, all those times I've gone out of my body. And many times, I know it sounds funny, but many times it happens right when I'm in the shower. It's amazing. And the thing about it is, I'll share this with you. It isn't dependent on length of time. Once you're out of your body, time doesn't exist in the sense that you feel it in this temporal plane. I can tell you, you can live a lifetime in a second. Because where time doesn't exist, that second doesn't have a second ending. Ooh, that was profound. Well, has this been fun, folks? I hope it's been fun for you. This is what the journey is about. And I am just so thankful. I mean, I've got 2 thumbs down. So, there's just some people who don't like this. And then I often, well, then why are you here? I mean, there should be no channel with the thumbs down. I mean, if you don't like it, well, don't listen. Who cares? It really doesn't matter. What matters is that we have the ability to express these thoughts. And what does matter is how each of you respond, how each of you see this. Because trust me, when that moment comes for all of us, when you're, I remember when I was up in Marble Falls, Texas, 12 years old at Marble Falls. There's a Lake Marble Falls that's right there. And we used to climb up the side of the cliff, and we'd get up there about 30 feet. And I remember the first time looking over that edge. I could see the other guys and even a couple of girls that were jumping off. And you know what that moment's like? It's like, okay. And you take that step. That's what it's going to be like. All right, folks, join me tonight over there in the Artist First Network. Thank you, moderators. Appreciate all of you. Y'all have a great day. Learn to love yourselves. Listen, you are perfect in your imperfection. And that's how that works. Embrace that of what you are. Don't try to set yourself to somebody else's perception. Learn to embrace yourself for all of your strengths and all of your weaknesses. Because as you learn to do that, you're going to get a lot stronger. And a lot of you write me and saying that you're really feeling sometimes alone. You're welcome here. There's no one going to harm you here, verbally or any other way. Because what we ask people, I challenge them all. It's what I was sent here to do. All right, folks, I appreciate you. Have yourself a great one. And we'll see you tonight. And then tomorrow night, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. You know that's going to be a good time. And then Saturday, join with myself, Jennifer Collins, and I'm very, very honored to have Sandra Rook, her daughter, coming on. This is a remarkable, remarkable spirit. Yeah, it's going to be special. All right, folks, big hugs to you. We'll see you later. Be kind to one another. All right, bye.